And China's central bank is now introducing its own digital currency in a pilot program that will be first instituted across just 4 cities. Now, internal tests of the digital currency are being conducted in Shenzhen, Suzhou, Chengdu, and Xiong'an. And it's a satellite city of Beijing to improve the currency's functionality. So joining us to discuss and probably explain, Boom Bust co-host and investigative journalist Ben Swan. Okay, Ben, so explain this to us. This is a digital currency. It sounds a lot like cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin. Is it or is it different?
It only sounds like it. In every other way, other than being a digital currency, it's nothing like cryptocurrency. It's more like Facebook's Libra, because that's also not a cryptocurrency. And the big difference is clearly the fact that you have the People's Bank of China, which will be issuing this. They don't even have a name for it yet. They're calling it DC for digital currency, or EC for electronic currency. And essentially, it would, be set up as a digital currency, but there's no privacy. There's no way of not being tracked through it. In fact, the Chinese government would not only be able to track everything you're doing with it, but would have access to your bank accounts that you're putting these funds into, be able to monitor those bank accounts at all times. So it's nothing like a cryptocurrency in terms of privacy or protection.
Okay, yeah, totally not crypto. And Ben, is the goal, I mean, what's the point here if you can track everything better than you can with paper money? Is the goal of this currency to eventually replace all that cash and paper money and for China to become like completely a digital currency society?
Well, look, I think the Chinese will say, and they are saying, that it's not going to replace all cash. Things would remain the same. It would just take some cash out of the system and move it into the system. I don't believe that at all. I believe that absolutely the long-term goal here is to replace all cash. First of all, a lot of Asian countries are already nearly cashless societies. They're much further ahead than we are in the West in terms of using digital payment systems and apps on their phones to pay for things. With this system, eventually you could get to the point where, people can't deal in cash at all. And by trying to make cash as worthless as possible, then you remove kind of the black market element to it, people avoiding taxation, and government gets to control the currency supply to an even greater extent. So I don't believe them when they say they don't want the whole system to go that way. Look, the reality is the positive of actual cryptocurrency is bypassing banks and peer-to-peer transactions. But the negative side of digital currency is that government gets to own, monitor, and control all currency.
Okay, Ben, my next question, don't laugh, but I got to ask this. So if China's going to move forward with this type of digital currency, then is America's answer to that going to have to be Facebook's Libra, or what's the one that JP Morgan Chase is working on? Is it going to be one of those?
Right. The JP coin. No, it won't be the JP coin, because that's essentially set up to replace the SWIFT banking system when you do transactions internationally. It's not a silly question at all. In fact, it's a very serious question, because I think that what Facebook, and I've been saying this, as you know, for some time, that Facebook's goal has been to be a central bank tool. I think that's what the Libra was originally designed to be. Mark Zuckerberg has never admitted that. A lot of the groups that were part of the Libra Association have backed out of it. But the only way Libra ever becomes an actual player in the market is to align itself with a central bank, i.e. the U.S. Federal Reserve or some kind of central bank, and then to process digital payments that way. I suspect that's where they're headed, because otherwise Libra can't exist as a centralized currency that belongs to a private company. The U.S. government's not going to allow that. So the only path forward for Facebook's Libra is to align itself with the central bank. I predict they will be doing that sometime in the next 24 months.
24 months, that's not very far off, Ben. Now, real quickly, I know the U.S. has a lot of irons in the fire, especially with coronavirus happening in this country and all over the world. But is there any chatter that the U.S. Treasury might be working on its own money? I mean, it's hard for me to imagine the U.S. government linking up, this directly and overtly with Facebook. I'd imagine the U.S. government would want to do its own, right?
Well, you would think that, and I would say in the past you were absolutely right, but we've seen a very strange kind of quantum leap here in the last few years, where a lot of federal agencies and government agencies have outsourced spying, data collection, privacy violations, monitoring of citizens to big tech companies, this might just be another thing that gets outsourced to a big tech company. I do know this, that as of last year when Libra was being talked about pretty heavily, and Mark Zuckerberg came under a lot of scrutiny over the Libra Association and exactly what Libra is and the Libra wallet. Remember, he was in front of the Senate on this. There were a couple of comments made that the Federal Reserve had looked at doing it, but the U.S. Treasury itself has never really considered it, and it is so far behind the rest of the world, especially China, that the only way to fast track it would be to work with a group like Facebook. And again, that's why I suspect that behind the scenes there are conversations going on where Facebook says, we're already way ahead of you, let's find some way to work together. And as I said, it's been happening in other forms.
Yeah, I mean, let me just throw out there that a lot of government offices here in D.C. are still operating on like Windows 11. So, you know, let's just say. All
Technology is not their forte.
No, we'll leave it right there. Ben Swan, thank you so much for that update.